You're listening to the Fierce Fatty Podcast, episode 142. Why have I been diagnosed with the O word? And when dieting is the only option. Let's do it.
Perfect.
Hello, Fierce Fatties and Fatty Allies. Welcome to the show today. We have a couple of extra guests. Guests, you say, Vinny? I know. Who would have thunk it? Well, it's Jackson and Bella, the puppies, from the people down the hall, my neighbours. So, if you're on video, you might have seen Jackson walking by. He's a border collie? Question mark? He's really fucking cute. And Bella is a ginger little thing? Question mark? Wearing a diaper because she likes to wee in my apartment. So little Bella is wearing a diaper of shame. When I bring it out, she says no. I look after these pups whenever I walk by my neighbour's apartments, and they're on their own. They do a little balky. I'm a barky pupperino. Woof, woof. When they're doing a balky, when they're own, I'll text my neighbours and say, do you want me to hang out with them? So I'll pop round and get them, bring them to mine. So anyway, I normally don't do it when it's a podcast day because they do like to do a balk. So let's just hope they don't do a balk today, or they're gonna be going home for the podcast. Anyway, welcome to today's podcast. It's going to be a listener question part 2. Hey, thanks to everyone who's emailed me saying that they like the podcast. I really appreciate it. A lot of you were saying that you liked the body dysmorphia episode. Why? Why did you like it so much? What did I do differently that you liked it so much? Maybe it's not that it was different or better, but maybe it just was really resonated for some reason. I don't know. So anyway, thanks for that. Okay, so we've got a couple of themes today, and the first one is going to the doctors and finding out the doctor has written on your chart that you have, quote, O word, which is O shmishippy. I don't even want to say it. I hate it so much. And then the next one is about being so frustrated with everything that maybe you choose to diet, and you know whether that's the answer or whether it's not. Who the frick knows? Well, I've got opinions, and we're going to be talking about that. Okay, so this is from Amy, who says, what could be the reason behind doctors diagnosing me with O word in my chart when 1, we haven't discussed my weight at all, 2, all of my health markers are within normal range and I have no symptoms of anything, and or 3, the appointment in question was about something unrelated to body size. I know you've discussed doctors lecturing their fat patients about weight when they come in with a sore throat, but this is slightly different. These doctors, 3 so far in my case, have never said a word to me about my size. They just congratulate me on how healthy I am and then write O word in my chart as soon as I've left the office. Is it somehow an insurance thing? A cover your ass move? So if I drop dead, then from fatness tomorrow, they can say that they documented that it might happen. It feels like such a betrayal. Yes, I so feel this when Amy says it feels like such a betrayal. I had to get my doctor's notes. I'm been in the process for like 5 years now of getting victims of crime compensation from when I was R-word by an ex-partner. Talked about that abusive partner in like many episodes ago, if you wanna know the goss on that. Anyway, and so one of the things that they needed was my medical records, notes, la-di-di-di-la, la-di-di-do-ba-la-la. And so I got them from my doctors from the whole time I've been in Canada, which is 13 years, and I was obviously having a little nosy, and I was really surprised by the doctors writing stuff about what I looked like. I was just like, what? And not just fatness, like presented well in a business suit. Personality was like this. Eyeballs were teary. I don't think that ever happened, because I'd never have gone to a doctor and cried, apart from one time when I was like 17. Anyway, yeah, so, and then one of them was, could stand to you lose a little weight. One, I was like, rude, and two, I was like, really, just a little? I think they were being generous. Obviously I don't think I could stand to lose anyway, but yeah, so I was like, rude, what the heck are they, why? So there could be a few things going on here, right? Depending on the country where you are in the world, your healthcare system, a lot of doctors are compensated if they, quote, counsel people on weight loss or mention that they are fat. But we know doctors actually often don't like talking about weight loss. It doesn't feel like that. Some doctors are very happy to do it, but some doctors aren't, and so they will just put it in the chart so they don't have to talk about it. And also, they could be doing it just as to see where you're at and compare. So I'm going to quote here from this Quora question. So the question on Quora, why do doctors make notes on patients' hygiene, grooming, nourishment and disposition at each appointment, no matter the nature of the visit? And so a few doctors chimed in here and said, this is what's happening. This one person, I'll put the link in the show notes. That is part of the examination. It gives clues into mental health and social determinants of health. Believe me, we see many patients with significant deviations from the norm on these standards of observation. Sometimes we will see someone skeletal. Sometimes we will see someone with bizarre makeup or clothing that indicates disorganized thinking. Oh, I mean, who gets to decide what is bizarre clothing that that indicates disorganized? I mean, I know. I don't. Anyway, carry on. Sometimes the nurses are spraying the hallway outside the exam room with Lysol. Oh God, rude. Sometimes people's mood is suspicious or angry in a way that indicates mental illness. Sometimes a person is wearing muddy slippers because they have no car and no shoes. Did you notice? The most basic of observations will show a great deal immediately upon entering the room. Is your patient well, or is something else going on that they're not mentioning? Is it a headache, or do they have carbon monoxide poisoning because they are trying to heat their home in an unorthodox way? Is a patient going to walk to the pharmacy in their slippers and be unable to afford the medication? Is the patient's mental health spiraling out of control? We can tell a lot of things with a few observations. Then we can ask the right questions. Some other person says, some person who is a former GP from the NHS says, I've written in tens of thousands of medical records. I can assure you that doctors don't do this. So someone else says, it's certainly often appropriate in frail elderly people or in people with serious mental illnesses. So, I mean, some people are saying, we do it as standard, and some people are not. Like with my doctor's notes, 90% of the notes had any mention about my appearance. And so who knows, this doctor, why they're doing it. One thing we do know is that doctor is probably experiencing bias towards body size, because as we know, body size is not an indicator of health, and they've got your health markers there, right? They the doctor's like, you're so healthy, but then writes down the O word, and so I would suggest or guess that it's probably because they think that the O word, being fat, is a negative thing, right? Something that doctor wants to probably keep an eye on. Or it could be as well that they want to make a little bit extra money for counselling someone on how to lose weight, or weight loss counselling. So there was this other article it's called "Who Are You Calling O Word, Doc?" They use the O word, from the Canadian Medical Association Journal, and it's talking about how it makes me so mad Do you know what makes me really mad? So people who are openly fat hating, people who are just clearly don't like fat folks and think fat people are unhealthy and want fat people to go away and die. I feel like I have more, I don't want to say the word respect, but I'm not as angry at those people, because I'm just like, clearly something is going on, right? Clearly they're really steeped in bigotry, and obviously it's annoying, but also I kind of feel a little bit more relaxed about it. People who are self-designated O-word experts, who say they advocate for fat people, they are not fat themselves, and they ignore fat activists, those people really, really fucking annoy me. I can just feel right now my heartbeat is oh, my chest is getting tight from thinking about how mad I am at them, because they're just so off the mark. They're so off the mark. It's like, you know what it's like? I don't know. I know I'm not going to compare it to this. Ignore that. And it's like they've got their fingers in their ears, and they're just like, la, 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 la. I'm going to save the fatties from their fatness by eradicating fatness. And so anyway, this article is, who are you calling O-word doc? And they're saying, you should, listen, we've got to be careful with our words. We gotta be saying person with O-word, and not that someone has O-word. We need to make sure that we say clinically obese, because it sounds nicer. Where they get that information from, the fact that it sounds nicer, it doesn't. It sounds nicer, and also we still need to definitely record the fact that people are fat. And also, you need to tell people that they're fat. This is coming from someone who is from the Canadian O-word network, who thinks that they are an advocate for fat people, who says basically, if we put the fact that someone has this disease of obesity in their records, they might see it, and it means that they might lose weight, because then we don't have to talk about it. But she says, just tell them to lose weight, because she says, quote, these are concrete health risks. It's not just about being kind to people. I literally want to stab my computer screen. I'm so mad about it. Yeah, so if you want to look at that, oh my God, and then there's some fucked up image on there. Don't look at it. Don't look at it. Don't look at it. I'll do the looking so you don't have to. What it really, really stinks of, is, do you know Autism Speaks? So Autism Speaks is a non-profit in the US, and it's basically, a lot of people have said that it's basically a hate organization. So I'm looking at a PDF about what, before you donate to Autism Speaks, consider the facts. And so they say very little money donated to Autism Speaks goes towards helping autistic people and families. So most of it, 1% family services. Yeah. So, and then 48%, quote, awareness and lobbying. Autism Speaks talks about us without us. So that is a phrase in the disability rights community. Nothing about us without us. And this is what the O-word, quote, experts are doing. They're like, fat people don't need to have a say. Of course not, don't be silly. So Autism Speaks has only one autistic person out of a total of 28 individuals on its board of directors. 23 of the 28 board members are from major corporations, like CEOs from PayPal, Goldman Sachs, blah, blah, blah. So Autism Speaks' fundraising strategies promote fear, stigma, and prejudice against autistic people. Autism Speaks uses its platform and advertising budget to portray autism and autistic people as mysterious and frightening. Their fundraising tactics increase stigma and create barriers to the inclusion of autistic people in our communities. So it's the blue puzzle piece. The puzzle piece, that's the ones that you want to avoid. And so this is really, really similar to what obesity networks or obesity researchers are doing. Is they're like, oh, we are... And so what Autism Speaks advocates for is person-first language. So people with autism. And what the O-word researchers and experts also say is we have to be kind to fat people. We have to say people with O-word and not just O-word, because we have to have inclusive language. Have they asked fat people what they want? No. Are they fat? No. Majority not. And in turn it creates extra stigma and harms fat people, and the idea behind O-word research and the quote experts is their goal is eradication of fatness. And with Autism Speaks too, it's about managing autism as this awful scary thing, and let's have less autistic people in the world, but we're going to be nice about it and call them people with autism, right? And so there's this push. There is this push for medical professionals to be, quote, kinder in ways they've been told by people who are experts, in quotation marks, on the subject, who have never talked to fat activists or people who are maybe actually knowledgeable about this topic, or the community in general, and they don't have the lived experience themselves. And they're just like, we've decided that this is what is best. We want to eradicate fatness, and so we're going to do it with a smile on our face. And so when the doctor's note says O-word, that's what I think of, is the smiling doctor who is like, you walk out the door and they're like, oh, they were disgusting. They were really fat, you know? And like exactly that Amy says, it feels like a betrayal, because you're like, oh, actually, is this person... like, are they on my side? Are they a good doctor? Oh my God, have I arrived at a doctor who is fat positive? Oh my God. And there's another article here that I was looking at, and it's saying how doctors describe patients matters even in their notes, and it's saying how, I mean, this isn't start and stop at fatness. Quote from here: a recent study in medical records of 18,459 Americans published in Health Affairs found that black patients were 2.54 times more likely than white patients to have at least one negative descriptor, such as resistant or non-compliant, in their files. Records for patients receiving social assistance, those who were unmarried, and those who were ranked higher on a comorbidity index were also more likely to contain negative descriptors. And so I'm like, great, this article is great, amazing. And then they talk to O-word experts. So O-word Canada, which co-authored the guidelines on clinical practice, guidelines on O-word, has seen a shift in terminology and awareness of weight bias. See how they're co-opting our language, weight bias, in O-word research presented at conferences since the organization started requiring authors to use person-first language in abstract submissions in 2017. So they're like, we're so forward thinking. Talk shit about the fatties, but make sure that you say person with O-word, because then it shows that we really respect them. And so, quote, we want to describe what a person has, because they have decided that O-word fatness is a disease, rather than asserting what a person is. Dawn Hatanaka of O-word Canada told the CMAJ, the language physicians use in the notes matters too, even if patients don't see it, because of their influence in the healthcare hierarchy. Okay, bets, everyone. Bets, get your bets in. Dawn, the executive director or the leader of O Word Canada. Bets, please. Is Dawn fat or is Dawn straight size? Bets in. What do I reckon? Is Dawn a fat person when they are leading an organization for fat people? Bets, get your bets in. No. No. Dawn is thin, and all the pictures of people on the O Word website, 90% of them are thin people. And I'm thinking, like, did they trot out some fatties just to be like, here's one of the poor, awful fatties that we're trying to help by erasing them from society. Anyway, so this is kind of like, a side rant on this fucked up shit. Just fucking. So anyway, just to be aware of that's happening, and yeah, I'm gonna breathe out all of that, and as well, sometimes I get people who are like bariatric surgeons or O word experts, fucking huge quotation marks, messaging me saying, we agree on so much, and it's just like, okay, so are you going to stop telling people to lose weight, or are you going to stop using inappropriate language to are you going to stop calling fat people diseased? No, because we need to get rid of fatness, silly. Well then fuck off. Like, go away. It's I feel like I would almost be more comfortable, like, having dinner with a raging fatphobe than I would someone who is a self-claimed O-word expert. Like, that's how I feel. Unless I thought that could change their mind, then maybe I would have a dinner with them. I'm not going to have a dinner with a fatphobe in this imaginary world of who would you least want to have dinner with. None of those people, but anyway. Okay, so let's go to a question from Madeline, and oh my god, they're both called Madeline, two Madelines, but spelled different. So Madeline says, I've been chewing on some thoughts about autonomy and the body recently. I'm a therapist and spend a lot of time reflecting on fat phobia. I've been thinking about the choice to acknowledge harmful systems and, quote, go back into the matrix, or engage in disordered eating behaviors in an attempt to control one's shape. I see the potential for harm, of course, but I can also sympathize with and feel compassion for this experience. What are your thoughts? And then Madeline number 2 says, I've been really struggling with feelings of bitterness towards people in my life who are not plus size. I feel so angry about the things I have to deal with being in a fat body that they will never have to worry about or deal with just because they are thin. I'm so tired and so frustrated of having to try so hard to survive, never mind being treated like an actual human being, simply because of the size of my body. I work in a healthcare setting and I see how patients treat my thin co-workers versus how I am treated. Some people are nice, others barely acknowledge me, and a lot of people seem to pity me. I'm just so tired and struggling with the strong urge pushing me towards diet culture, surgery, literally the most desperate measures to achieve thinness, so I can stop dealing with the difficult parts of being fat. So I really with Madeline 2, the person who's experiencing the things that Madeline 1 are talking about, like, this is a prime example of why telling people that you mustn't diet often is not helpful. Because, say, with Madeline, we can really feel, I don't know about you, but I can really feel how frustrated, how difficult things are, what a struggle it is. These are literally Madeline's words of so tired and frustrated of having to so hard to survive, and so much pushing them towards diet culture, surgery, any desperate measure to achieve thinness. And so Madeline 2's safety is in question here. Madeline's mental well-being. her survival. Sorry, I just said her. I don't know what Madeline's pronouns are. Madeline's survival. And so for Madeline to survive, if they decided, I'm going to go on a diet to temporarily ease that deep discomfort, life-threatening discomfort. And I know that it's going to be temporary. I know that it is also probably going to be harmful to my mental health and my physical health. I know that it will probably make me bigger in the meantime, but right now I feel so desperate that it's what I need to do to survive. Should we be saying to Marilyn too, well, you've really fucked up. Like, how could you do that? You know, I thought you understood about that dieting doesn't work. I thought that you were, you know, like Madeline 1 says, out of the matrix, or, you know, I thought you'd taken the pill and you understood. Well, you know, life's a little bit more complicated than, you know, kind of, we've seen the light and then that's it. We turn our back and we move forward. Because the realities of living in a body that is big, and also in a body that maybe has some other marginalizations, it's difficult, right? And that's why some people do decide to have surgery, you know, especially when you've got so many people potentially in your life. And with Madeline too, going to work and people being like that. I mean, and maybe Madeline as well at home, and then maybe Madeline too with her doctor. Then maybe Madeline too's got a therapist who is like, yeah, you should be thin. I mean, how many therapists are actually fat positive? Not all of them, you know? And so I think recognizing that difficult experience, that absolutely overbearingness of the overbearing pain of fat misère, of fat hate, and the fact that it is institutional, it is interpersonal, it is intrapersonal, and it is ideological. It is weaved into every single part of our society. So if you need to do whatever you need to do to live and survive, then I get it. I mean, we can hear bell bells now. Bell bells, thank you. There's a dog on a balcony outside barking. And so with Madeline 1, who is a therapist, and, you know, talking about, Madeline didn't ask this, but kind of like seeing the harm in engaging in disordered eating in attempt to control one's shape, is what Madeline 1 said. Like, do we encourage that? Like, as a healthcare provider, as a therapist, as a friend, do we encourage that? If someone said to me, you know what, I'm really struggling and I feel like I want to go on a diet. If I was coaching them, I would say, yeah, absolutely, I get that. Like, and what is it that you're hoping to achieve from going on a diet? And they could say, you know, my mum would get off my back, my doctor would allow me to access gender confirmation surgery. I might be able to experience a little bit less shame in the world. I might be able to fit clothes, because right now I am sized out of even plus size clothing stores, and so I'm going to do that just to kind of access certain things, access certain privileges. And also I know that, you know, maybe if I do get clothes, that it's probably going to be a temporary thing, but right now I just need to feel like I'm a human being, you know, just for a short amount of time. And I would say that sounds valid to me. And also, it's really fucking awful that you have to do that. It's awful that you have to play this game where no matter what, you're not going to be a winner, right? You know, there's no way to win. because we're playing this game where there's no winning. We need to destroy the game, you know. So I would validate those feelings, and talk about like weighing up the pros and cons of, I might have to engage in things that are disordered to access these privileges and benefits temporarily, and knowing that long term probably not going to work, but sometimes you need to take a moment to catch your breath, right? Catch your breath. And when I say catch your breath, I mean, so if this person decides to engage in dieting, that might be the catching the breath moment where you can then be on better footing to then deal with the fat phobia that we see every day, right? Ultimately, the thing that we would love to get to is to be able to know how to, and also have access to resources that help you survive this world, whether that be therapy or fat community or whatever it is. Like that is the goal, because obviously we want to be alive, right? We want to be able to survive in this world, and unfortunately we're not going to wake up tomorrow and everyone be like, fat people are cool. Like that's not the reality. So we're going to have to be in this world, this fat hating world, but we can do things to make it a lot easier. I was talking so I got my hair cut yesterday, and I went to this new hairdresser's, a gender inclusive hairdresser's, amazing. One of the posters they had said, heterosexuality is a sick and boring life. I just thought that was amazing. And I was talking to the hairdresser, and their pronouns were she, they. And she was saying about working previously in a straight salon, is what she was calling it. And they were saying that they could never go back to a non-queer salon, because she's seen the light, right? Like now she's seen how you could be treated, and the alternative is just absolutely not sustainable for them. And so she was saying that if she ever left that salon, she just wouldn't go anywhere else. That would be the end of their hair career, right? And I thought that was really interesting, because I feel like that's what it's like when you come out of being in diet culture and believing it, and the current, it's like you're working at a straight salon, and it's currently absolutely unbearable, but there is the existence of that one queer salon, but we don't know where it is yet. Like, so with Madeline 2 saying, I'm feeling awful, it's almost like Madeline 2 is in that, currently in that straight salon where, my hairdresser was saying that they were telling them to wear makeup and be more presentable as a woman. And she was like, oh, gross. Whereas at this other salon, it was just great. Everyone was just being themselves. And so I think about that having to survive in that, straight salon, and Madeline too here having to survive in a world where presumably everywhere that they turn is fat phobic. And then I compare it to, like, when I first started this journey, everywhere I turned, it was fat phobia, because I had, surrounded myself by that, because I loved it. I loved it, quotation marks. That was like, I was playing the game. All my colleagues were fat phobic. My friends were, not all of them. My family, mostly. And, everything that I watched, everything that went into my brain was like, fat people are shit. And that was overwhelming when, as Madeline 1 says, I came out of the Matrix, or went into the Matrix. I don't know I can't remember what the analogy is. I know it's to do with the film Matrix, but I don't know, if we're saying go into the Matrix, go out of the Matrix. Going in the Matrix. Let me work this out. Okay, so we're going into the Matrix. The Matrix is the fake world, right? And you're out of the Matrix. Is that right? You're out of the Matrix and you're in the reality. And now you can't see the make-believe world. Yeah, okay, so going into the Matrix would be going into diet culture. I bet you there's some people listening being like, Vinny, for fuck's sake, this is really simple. I'm sorry. And so with Madeline too, there's a technique that I like to use, which is remove, reduce, protect. And so remove, reduce, protect is kind of like survival 101, and to reduce fat phobia in your life. And so the first thing is, can you remove the sources of fat phobia? Can you remove the sources of fat hate? So if it's Madeline's job to be surrounded by fat haters, is it realistic for Madeline to get a new job? Probably not. But maybe it is. Madeline might be like, I'm thinking about leaving. And so actually, you know what? Fuck it. I'm definitely going to leave because I realise that this sucks. And then also Madeline might go to a new job and it might be just as bad because Madeline's in healthcare, right? Okay, so remove. But then again, Madeline might have some friends who are like, I hate fatties or whatever. And so Madeline could decide that they are going to remove those friends. Or maybe not, right? All of these are kind of like, maybe we can do that and maybe not for various different reasons. Remove, reduce. So if you can't remove something for various reasons, power imbalances, accessibility reasons, you just don't feel like it, can you reduce the amount of time spent with them? So if it's a awful family member, Aunt Karen, who is like, oh, all the fat people, they're awful, then maybe, instead of spending every single Friday with Aunt Karen, spend every other Friday with Aunt Karen, or instead of spending 4 hours with Aunt Karen, spend 2 hours with Aunt Karen. And finally, if you can't do that for whatever reason, like, your workplace, you can't just be like, do you know what, I've decided I'm working part-time now, so I don't have to deal with you motherfuckers. That might not be something you can do, obviously. And so what you want to do then is protect your mental health. And so this could be doing things like listening to this podcast. It could be watching affirming shows and movies. It could be reading books about this. It could be educating yourself. It could be looking at pictures of fat people doing cool things. It could be talking to your therapist, etc., etc. Remove, reduce, protect. So when I see someone who is really, really struggling and they're feeling kind of maybe similar to what Madeline is feeling, that tells me that they really are getting hammered. Like they're on the battlefield. They've got, arrows and swords and people on horseback coming at them, and they cannot get a breath. There's no respite. And what is the solution for them? Sometimes it is to diet. Sometimes it's to try and get off the battlefield in some way. Maybe it's to hold up a shield so that the arrows don't hit you. Sometimes it's to hide in a trench, and all of those things are valid. Sometimes it's to wave a white flag and say, I give up. I'm going to go on a diet. And none of those are choices that make you a bad person. It's what is accessible for you. And, diets don't work to make people thinner, long term. But they might work at reducing the amount of stigma someone is experiencing temporarily. Because, how many of us have experienced being thinner and people saying, oh my God, look at you, and feeling like a good person? And also, how many of us has experienced that and then known that person is judging us, and that when we do put weight back on, because that's what happens with diets, that they're in their head probably thinking, oh, they used to be so thin and now look at them, they're fat, and what does that mean? Oh, they're this and they're that and whatever, if the person is not fat positive. So yeah, it's complicated. So for Madeline, I hope I answered those questions for you. And for Amy, so I'm actually going to make this episode a little bit shorter today because I've got laundry in the dryer downstairs. I've got shared laundry, so I'll have to go get it. And as well, because I thought, I'm going to do a little shorter episode today because I'm always rambling on for about an hour. And, sometimes people might like a little shorter episode, even though this is at 40 minutes. So, is it shorter? It is. Okay, well, thank you for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate it. And if you've got questions for the show, email me, fatty@fiercefatty.com. And that's my assistant. And she will collect them and I'll have a look at them with my eyeballs. Yeah. Okay. See ya on the next episode. Okay, bye.
Perfect.